here on my left by Claire Bedin. Claire is Head of Diversity and Inclusion at BNP Paribas Fortis. She successfully initiated the diversity project at BNP Paribas Fortis 5 years ago and is still running it today with the same passion. Claire is also a member of the board of the Center for Equal Chances, recently name change, and it's called now UNIA, correct? Good. Then we have, next to Isabella, we have Olivier May from L'Oréal. Olivier is Human Resources Director General for L'Oréal Group and Belux. He has worked for L'Oréal in a couple of countries, and we will hear from him how L'Oréal is experiencing gender diversity in a quite different way. And of course we have Isabella, who joined us for this last session. Now, for those who do not know Isabella, she's the founder and managing director of Jump. She's also an Ashoka Fellow, recognized for her role as social entrepreneur with a mission to bring gender equality to society. Right, ladies and gentlemen. Claire, shall I start with you?
Okay, fine.
On the grill. We've just heard some consultants' view, Claire, on what is important to step change companies on paths to gender equality, and I'm really interested to hear, it from the companies. How does it work in practice? Now, if there is one key lesson learned from everything you've done inside your company, and I know, you don't have half an hour, unfortunately, I'm sure you have a lot of things to say, but if there is really one key lesson on diversity and gender diversity in particular, what would it be?
Okay, indeed I don't have half an hour, so I will just, I've thought a little bit. I think what is really, what gives the most powerful results in what we have seen is providing new types of role models. And by role models, I thought, and that was what I would have shared like 1 year ago, mainly women showing to women, that you can do it. But I had a very interesting experience just during the last 12 months, which made me think, in fact, it's not only about providing female role models, but mainly about providing different sorts of role models with maybe a different sensibility, maybe more open to emotion, so probably, but I had, for instance, exactly the same evolution of figures in two different cases. One was a woman nominated for the first time in a region where there was no women in the direct management, and when she started doing, the former director said, well, I'm sorry, but I don't think there are really, women of talent in this specific region. And in the following months, we could already see the talents emerge and show indeed their ambition, as you just mentioned about ambition. But then, when I go to this new experience we had like 1 year ago with a new head of one region who is a man, and a man typically with a very collaborative approach, not really a clone of a more classical masculine style, really someone who is very much looking for co-creation, co-decision, and these kinds of things. We have seen exactly this, at the same pace. It was also a region where they would have said just before, there are no feminine talents at the right level. Well, they emerged exactly at the same speed. That I thought quite fascinating. So I would say that really encouraging to dare put new types of role models at specific strategic places will give a very powerful message, so that women can be confident to express this ambition.
Yeah. That actually links with what Diana said about the different leadership styles, right? So it's not so much a question of men or women, it's also the behavior. But, and what I find also impressive is that very quickly you did see some results. So that's quite encouraging, I must say.
In the 6 months in both cases.
Yeah. Now, Olivier May from L'Oréal. So what interests me also is, of course, well, compared to Fortis, BNP Fortis Paribas, from my perception, your company at least seems like a quite more female-friendly company. Tell us more about your key learnings. You're not really 50-50 on a top management level, but you're not very far.
Absolutely. Actually, gender equality is something that is not only a wish at L'Oréal, but something we work quite hard to, and that we take steps to ensure it happens. And we come from a situation, let's say about 10 years ago, where we tend to attract a lot more women when we hire people, mostly at junior level as far as we're concerned. And we had an issue because at the very top level, we were not there. We had much more women coming in, and then at the top level, we had many more men. So coming from that, there was, what was absolutely key was two things for me. First of all, there was a strong management commitment and an objective that was set to reach 50% in management committees, 50% of women, sorry, in management committees across the world. So it was a major decision, and it was sponsored by the very top of the organization. So that was absolutely key. The second thing that we did is that, for me, gender equality is also something that you have to bring from the bottom. It's not only a top to bottom, it's a top decision, but then you have to take it from the bottom also to make it a bottom-up approach. So in that respect, learning, training took a very important part in breaking psychological barriers, things like that. So we decided to train everyone. We decided to train 60,000 people around the world on diversity. And we still do today when people are coming in. And those two key elements actually created results. 5 years ago, we had around 39% of women in management committees around the world. Today we have 48, so we're almost 50.
You're almost there.
As you mentioned earlier. It has also been producing results at the very top of the organization, in the management committee, in the COMEX, in the committee executive in Paris, where we've, from a situation of 21% of women, we're actually around a third right now, around 33%. So getting the results, but again, a strong commitment, strong involvement of everyone, from the top of organization, but also from the bottom. Mm-hmm. Those were key.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Now, you did mention something that we all know, right? Which is, it is really, a decision from the CEO, and it comes from the top, and then it goes down, and from the bottom to go up. But Diana, I have a question for you. How do we put this topic on every CEO's agenda? What can we do, and what can we do to keep it there?
So, first of all, putting the gender diversity on top of the CEO's agenda is necessary, but it won't solve the case by itself, as there is no single silver bullet. However, it's absolutely necessary, and for us it's part of the ecosystem that is required to promote gender diversity and diversity of leadership styles. In order to have the gender diversity on top of the CEO agenda, I would say it works as for any other business challenge. You have to build the case, and you have to show people of how important it is for their corporation to actually have more women at the top. So you have to convince them of how it will be impactful, and also where the gap lies in their organization today.
Mm-hmm. Isabella, you meet a lot of CEOs here in Belgium and in Europe regarding this gender diversity or gender equality. What do you hear from them? What do they need to be convinced to be putting it on the agenda? Because you're a very convincing woman, so I think, well, if you go and see them, they should be convinced, and still.
Unfortunately, it is not so easy. I think a talk by a man on gender equality has more impact than if I come myself as a woman, as an activist, as a feminist. This is why we have launched 6 years ago the CEO Ambassador for Gender Equality, because I thought that really we needed some men advocating for gender equality. A man and a CEO in order to convince more CEOs. What I do observe is that until when they are not aware of the fact that by having exactly the same attitude towards men and women, they are discriminating women. They will do only gender washing, and this is a very big problem, because in many companies, what happens is that yes, the CEO is convinced that because you have only 2 or 3% of women CEOs for the big companies, that he needs to do something, but he doesn't know exactly what, because he has not that much knowledge on that. And what he tends to do is to give to the HR team the responsibility of having more diversity, and specifically to one person, who generally is a woman, that does that thing on top of her normal job. She needs, for example, to build and animate a women's network. So men are okay if they are not involved, because it's a women's network. And that person, that woman, is not helped by the top management, has not the time, is not recognized for everything that she does, doesn't have the budget to do so. And so very often she's even penalized in her career. And this is an enormous problem. And this is how you damage gender equality instead of doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before going to Inge on the mindset change, because I think that's really important, Claire, can I just ask you a personal question? You can always say no. I mean, from what Isabella said, you are a diversity leader within BNP Paribas Fortis. Are you doing this on top of your job? This is a mandate you got, right?
Yeah, sure. But it's a bit. I have the chance that, first of all, I've been a banker for half of my career, so I'm fundamentally in business. So, I mean, that certainly helped. And then the things we have put in place, well, if I just talk, for instance, of networks, we have gone for a mixed network. And the first man who was member was our CEO. The day we founded the network, he wanted to be part of it. So, I mean, these things help. The mix, for me, the key word in everything we do is the mix. I think we have, it's not so much the importance of having these profiles or these profiles, it's just that by having a mix, it's just what the famous research also of Scientific American said, that diversity makes us smarter. I like this so much.
Makes us smarter, or makes
us smarter.
Okay, makes us
just
smarter.
Because we are confronted by all these differences, and it helps.
Absolutely. Now, so Inge, you did mention a little bit during your presentation what this mindset, this change of mindset is needed. Now, what is really key to get this mindset change happen? What do we need? We know, but how can we do it?
Well, it's not that difficult, because for me, when I speak to managers about gender difference, I just mention like simple things. I said, look, we all know men and women are different. And recently I was in a law firm, and I was speaking to one of those most senior partners who I've been given to speak to, because he was he was representing the more traditional part of the corporation. So I said to him, we all know men and women are different. So he said, yeah. I said, so what are you doing with that difference? And how are you making use of that difference? How are you making sure the value of women comes out and the value of men comes out? And he said, oh, yeah, we need to do something with that. I don't want to be a bigot. I don't want to be, a lot of men are on the side of women. They don't want to be seen as, I like women. That's what they say to me. I like women, not bigot. I don't want to be racist or discriminatory. And the fact that you then give them something where you say it's about contributing fully, it's about bringing out value, women need something different, and then obviously it takes a while for them to get what that difference is. But you know, even in the workshops I run with the managers, I speak maybe 20 minutes on 6 differences, and they pick up 4 or 5 things that they go and do differently. So it's yeah. But you need to have that conversation with each and every man and woman in the organisation. So.
Yeah,
So it doesn't go overnight, but that's basically, it's a change management process. But I think when you have the right message, which we also heard from Tina, you know, when you make people feel the problem and give them why women are different, then yeah, it sort of slots into place.
All right. Diana, what Isabella, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something maybe, is that I think that we need to measure gender equality in order to make it more strategic and more effective. We need to have a very clear objectives after having done a screening on the situation. Also, I'm really in favor of having an internal survey on the difference of perceptions of am I able to do a career within my company? And then you see the difference between men and women. We do that a lot in German. We see that it helps really a lot in order to build a gender equality plan and then put measures, objectives, and key performance indicators, and followed by accountability. Because if people do not feel responsible for it in every business unit and so on, because of their bonuses or the damage on their career, on their evaluation, then it goes nowhere. So it must be a business objective, otherwise it doesn't work.
And by measuring, you can sometimes identify very specific issues. Like 2 years ago, we have realized in our global survey, which we do annually, that one specific business, in one of these businesses, the expectations of women of the ability of doing a career was lower than the one of men. And then we started, because of these figures, to make interviews, to understand better. And for this specific business, which is a business with much less women, which is a very much IT-oriented business, we really had to make a real plan, a systematic plan to work on that. So it helped.
At L'Oréal, how do you measure, or what kind of measurements do you have regarding gender equality?
Well, something I mentioned earlier around, for example, the percentage of women that we recruit, the percentage of women that we promote. And indeed, as Isabella was saying, it's absolutely key from my point of view to set objective and then to measure the progress that you actually make. It's also a way to see whether it works or not. So it's absolutely something absolutely key. So we have, let's say, a broad objective across the group, and then it's up to each subsidiary to set their own objectives, taking into account the actual situation of the subsidiary. But I think if you don't have a strong commitment from the top, if